Well, I'll share a little bit about what's been going on in my world. A little bit of programming progress and a little bit of progress on getting my machines organized. On the screen here is this computer in the background, and I know it's small, is the laptop that I would put on the tractor, and you can just barely make it out, but there's an antenna sitting there, and there's a little 3D printed case there, and inside of that case is a TTGO board, um, and it's connected via USB to this track. Let's call it the tractor laptop. Um, Now, the screen that you're seeing there, I'm using VNC server to log on to that. So let's see. I want to show Visual Basic. So you can see in the background that camera. The camera that you're seeing is a camera that's attached to, let's call it the operator laptop, or the master, and the tractor would be the slave. So what's running there is code that, I think it's full screen already, is it? What's running there is code on the TTGO board that basically is showing that it received an incoming message, and the code I posted in GitHub, it's all hard-coded data, but it's a first step, because getting Visual Studio Code up and running, and getting it in GitHub, and it was all a bit of a drama for me. The other computer that's running is a Windows 10. Let's see, how do I close this? Is the Windows 10 laptop that's got this camera attached to it, and I'm going to close that for just a second. And so this laptop also has another TTGO board connected to it, and it's sending the steering, throttle, and different data, but it would also be receiving back from the tractor. I think we've started with would receive the heading and speed, and I haven't added it to the structure yet, but I also think receiving back the RPM would be useful if you get that Hall effect sensor working. I'll have to do something similar to get the Hall effect sensor working. So this Windows 10 machine is also running Visual Studio Code, and that's just, I'm switching to that as the IDE, and Platform IO is the extension that's useful to upload the programs to the TTGO boards. So getting that, plus getting a VNC viewer hooked up and able to see, these different machines and be able to remote into them has been what I've got done. So here again, you can see this says Lenovo user, but it's consider it the master, and then this is the tractor laptop, which is running Ubuntu. This is running Windows 10, and this one is running Ubuntu, and this is just the user interface to this thing called VNC viewer. You can it's a little bit like a VPN and a remote desktop control tool all at the same time. So that's what I'm thinking about using. So that's what I've got at the moment. Four computers going all at the same time. It's a first. So my next step with the slave and the master is to, instead of using hard code data, get the real data off the potentiometer and other sensors and send that through, send real data back from the tractor, and work on the physical remote control so I can get that all organized to actually drive the tractor with the remote control. That's it. You're on mute, my man.
Oh, it pops up a thing here that says, "Oh, you're on mute." So it's smart enough to know that too, I guess. So playing the camera a little there. I guess it doesn't matter. So I said in the last, I think it was the last meeting, the fact that they were popping up that thing saying that the old messages are going to disappear. And so I went to the trouble to export the whole thing, and then was trying to decide what to do with it. And I found those. I said I found a couple of GitHubs where you can go. People have various things that they're trying to do with the data, and I tried a couple of them, and I can't get any of them to run. One of them, it looks like, you know, I can download the code, and I try to run it. Let's see, what was my issue on that? As I try to install it, it says, oh, to get something called Flask, I think is what they have, which is kind of like a web viewer thing. And part of that, there's something called Click, and it said, oh, when we're installing this, you already have version 7.1 installed or something. So it says that's good, and then down below it says, oh well, this is going to require version 8, therefore you're going to have version 7 when this is done. So nothing worked there, and I figured out how to update that Click thing, and now I just can't get it to do anything. So I thought one thing I could do is switch over to my Windows laptop. One of the sites said here that we just provide an executable for Windows to do whatever it was they're doing. So it could be I can get that one loaded and do something with it. And the bottom line is I have all the data exported back to like January of 2018 or something, but I don't know if the threads are included in that. You can't see the threads in there. And somewhere it says there's an API call. If you're doing their fancy stuff, you can say, here's the name of the thread, and it goes out and grabs it somewhere and returns it to you. So I don't know if that's stored separately and if that data will always be there. It could be the data will always be there. So even if you had the backup data and it says, here is a thread, maybe it'll go out and get that for you and still show it to you. But I know the stuff for ROS Agriculture, we lost all the threads because people weren't aware of that at the time. That didn't get saved. So you're looking down the list on that, it says, oh, this person said this, and then somebody started a thread with 16 messages in it, but you can't get to that because it's just apparently gone now. It could be that if it is stored forever and you know what the thread is called and you know the mechanism, maybe you could still go out and get the stuff for ROS Agriculture. I don't know if it could be that Slack group is gone completely. And if so, the data probably got deleted. So I'm not sure on that. So what was the other thing I was saying? So if I tried on my Windows computer, of the things I found, one of them says it will take you manually export like I did. It says you run this program and it'll convert that to a PDF, but there will be no images in it. And they said that was by design. So that one, I think it mentioned threads. So if I can get that one to run, that might be the one that has the executable for Windows. I can at least verify if it's going to pull up the threads on everything. And if it does, I can go ahead and run that and convert all the data back to day one of this list and save that. And then maybe there's other things I can do with it later on. But so that's kind of where I'm at with that. I spent all day trying to get that other stuff to run and just got annoyed and finally quit playing with it. So I haven't got it all figured out yet, but you know, it's maybe close.
But the description wise, it's saying that it has stored the threads. They just haven't made it easy to get to them.
Well, the way it works when you say export, it pops up a JSON file for each day. And in the JSON file, it says, this is the date, here's the name of this message. And then if there's any images, they'll list the images in line. The images aren't in the data, but there's a link. You can cut and paste that into a browser and go get the image. So technically you can get all the images that were posted. And then it says, there's a tag that says replies, and under replies, it has two entries. One entry saying this is the user ID, and this is a timestamp telling you about that thread. And then that's so that there's a pointer to it, but they don't, it's not provided at that point. And I can't figure out if they have like a separate website that holds this stuff, because the files are in something called slack/files/something, and then you put in the, again, like timestamp or whatever, and it'll pull those up. So it could be there's one called threads. There might be something called Slack threads out on the internet, and if you know where to find it, you can go track it down that way. So anyway, you could see that it identifies the thread. And then if I go look at the Slack API, they're saying, oh, well, if you want to know that, if you're trying to automate the way this works, you can execute this call that says something about retrieve thread, and you give it that name, and it returns back a list, an array of all the messages that are in that thread. But as I say, I don't know where it's getting those, or I don't think they're stored in the data that I've got, but maybe they are. That's why I just need to get at least one of these to run to verify I can get the threads at all, and then maybe go from there to see what's going on.
Cool. Well, thanks for at least trying to pull that data in.
I was thinking there might be some other comments to make on that, but I can't think what they are right now. It turns out of these different projects out there, maybe I found 3 projects total. One of them says export the data ahead of time yourself, and then this other one is called like Slack Viewer or something. What it's called. And that one, that's the one that puts up like a web page like thing. So it actually gives you a page that kind of looks like Slack, and then it takes the data you exported and kind of works the same way, I think, as far as scrolling through. And then there's one of the other ones, you start it up and it actually goes out to Slack and does the export for you. So they know enough about how to manipulate Slack. And I assume you tell it, what is you're looking for, and then it exports the data. And then one of them says, now run that Slack viewer that I just said I can't get to work. So that's one way. And then there's at least a third one that I think it also goes out and exports the data. And I don't remember what it did with it, but I looked at this stuff, and so far I haven't got that to run other than just manually exporting from the Slack account itself. So I've got to, I can get the data back to whatever date. So at the moment, that's where I'm at on that, and I'm not sure how soon I'll get back to this, but it'd be worth trying on the Windows laptop to see what it does. So the next thing,
more videos to show.
Well, so the next thing on the list, I put out some YouTube videos on YouTube, and let me see everything here. La 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 la. Let me try this. Share screen. Screen 2. So you see my Slack screen at this point?
Yes.
So sometime last week I posted this, or maybe it was this week, and I just said, well, I got the thing bolted on, and I got my supports welded, and then here's just a picture of, well, let's go down here. This is one of the YouTube videos, and it's just simply standing back watching the thing run as I push the button and run it back and forth, and just here's the second one from a different angle. And then I was pointing out that when you run the motor, it generates enough torque on this chain that what it does, the motor swings up and down because there's nothing supporting it other than this. It's got this shaft across here that it pivots on. So what I did was I came here. Come on. Here's something else I know. Is it always done this where I open a picture and if there's a thread attached, it automatically opens the thread? I thought at one point it was doing that, but if you hit the X, then the thread would go away and you can still see the image. But now if I click that, if I click it, it goes away completely. So what you have to do is you have to come over here and, oh, come on. Somewhere you can say open in, here you go, open a new window. Oh, that's, let's don't go down that path because it's not gonna, wait, that would have worked here. Open in. They seem to change the stuff daily, so it never seems to work. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, there, I think that's working. So this is this gray part here. This is my frame that I made to hold the motor, and across here is a that big pipe that's already on the motor, and there's a bolt hanging onto that. So the motor can swing up and down like this on that pivot. But right now the weight of the motor holds it. It holds the chain tight. So I thought, well, just to try it, I'll run it like that. And when I ran it, sure enough, with the wheels on the ground, so there's a lot of torque. As it starts pulling on this side, it raises the motor up, and that's a problem. So I had to figure out what to do about that. So what I ended up doing here was, oh, now that I got this, it's not going to let me zoom or anything. So, well, anyway, I looked at this for quite a while. I spent like all day trying to figure it out. I thought, well, I could bolt something onto the motor and then weld it to the frame, or I can get some aluminum and bolt it on one place and bolt it on the other place. And finally, I decided if I just wedged something in between the motor and the frame, that it can't raise up. So what I did, I just took a drill and drilled a hole through the frame and tapped that for quarter 20 bolt and run a bolt down through there. And then I got a lock washer and a nut that just holds it in place. So I just simply ran this down against the motor so the motor can't come up, and then tighten that down. And that seems to be working adequately.
Very ingenious.
So then the other thing I did was I've got these two YouTube videos here. I'll post this is going to work. You had too many computers running. I got too many windows running here. Let's see. How do I get back to Slack? Zoom, I mean, Zoom. Is this it? No. Well, here, let me stop sharing for a moment, see what happens. Okay, there I can get that. Chat. Oh, my chat window's over here. Let's see what this does. Do this. So I posted the two links to my videos, and I'll play them in a second here. So there will be so we'll be able to see them at this point. Which one is it? Go here and go here and do this. And I have to share screen again. Make this bigger. So this is just simply going to be, let's see, I think my microphone's on. I think I'm sharing it. So this is just a picture of it with the, here's the frame bolted on, and here's the new side rails that I've got welded at the bottom. And the wheels are on the ground. So it's got the weight of the vehicle on the sidewalk right now. And I just come the wires off the motor. I just simply have them coming back to my driver board back here. So let me run this. So I assume you're not getting audio, but it's just
no audio, but movement.
If you watch the YouTube video, when I first change direction, you hear a big clunk, and I think that's the pinion gear at the bottom of the steering shaft and the big gear down the bottom. It's just the teeth aren't meshing as well as they should. So there's simply a different view of that same thing going on. And it's almost done here. Okay, so how do I get the other one to run now? I'm totally lost. That was 36. I guess the other one.
Power going to the motor, is it going through a motor controller?
Yes, it is. So if we stop right here, see on the back here, there's one, that's one of those Citron 30 amp boards. and it's just got a lead acid battery sitting on the seat back here. So it's got that thing on, it's got the 2 push buttons, so you can manually run the thing. So you can push one and it turns clockwise, and push the other one, it turns counterclockwise. And it's got a potentiometer, this blue thing right there. You can adjust that for how much power you want the thing to put out. And I just started with it too low to move it and started cranking the pot up till the wheel started to turn, and cranked it up some more so it actually go all the way. So basically what I'm doing here, as you watch, I'll just hold one button down and you'll see the thing turn one way, and then hold the other button, you'll see it turn the other way. So that's what's about to happen here. And it kind of slows down at the ends, but I still think I can crank that power up quite a ways to make it respond better. But for right now, I just wanted to get it to just to prove the motor had enough torque to move it, and everything was going to work without falling apart. So that's what I did on that. So let me see. How do I let's say stop sharing now. Let's go look at. I got some other pictures here.
I've never used that motor controller board like that. I don't think I even knew those push buttons were there.
It turns out it's real handy, because that way you don't have to have the whole thing running to do anything with it. Let's see. Let's go. So again, this is a picture of how I ended up, where here's the frame bolted on, and right now it does not have the adjustment in to hold the motor in place. And down here, I just have these things clamped. And then like a day or so later, I welded this here and across the back, and then took these clamps off. So that's pretty much the state that's in. And that's that video. That's the other video. And there's the picture of the, here, can I zoom at this point just for the heck of it? Yeah, there I can. So there I can zoom in, and essentially I just simply looked at it and said, okay, here's about the center of the motor housing, and I tried to keep away from the edges so I can get a wrench on it, and I just drilled a hole through there and tapped it, and then put the bolt in, and that seems to be holding that for the moment. And then here was the thing I was saying before, where here's the frame up here at the top, and here's the top of the motor. If I just wedge a piece of plywood or something in there, that proved to me that yes, that that should be adequate to keep it in place and keep the chain tight. And that then after I decided that's when I put the other. What now? What? No, that didn't work. I'm lost. This one.
It says you're still sharing.
Yeah, but I lost all my navigation arrows. So, oh, here's what the problem is. Okay, there. So anyway, once I decided if I wedge something in there, keep the motor from moving, then I added this thing, and that did the same thing. So I don't have to put anything in there. I've got that bolt, and it's got an adjustment on it, so that I need to get a shorter bolt. That's the only one I had that had lots of threads on it. And then again, this is just a close up of the this is the motor, the motor shaft, and it's got a sprocket, and it's pinned onto it with a 1/4-20 bolt all the way through. And then here's the steering shaft here, and the identical sprocket, and then I've got an M6 bolt drilled through to pin that on. And it was interesting, because I drilled the hole in the sprocket, and that seemed to work really well. I did that in the house on the drill press. I drilled one just through one side of it, and that drilled very easily. So I took it out, I slid it on the shaft, and took all the rest of the junk off, and took my drill and started drilling the hole. And the shaft itself is hard enough. It took me like half an hour or something to drill through, but since I had my first hole on the side here to start with, that lined it up. I ran it through. When it was done, it was almost exactly where it's supposed to be, which surprised me. So I had to drill through the shaft and then drill through the sprocket again to get out of the other side. So once I did, I put that M6 bolt in there, and it turns out that, you know, it's one of those things, as you build it, you get so far and say, well, I shouldn't have done that. Well, it turns out the sprocket is down against the bearing inside of here, and you can see this ridge. I can zoom. See the ridge on the inside of this pillow block bearing, and this nut was going to hit that as it turns. So I had to like on the back side of it, I put at least one washer to pull that back, and then I took a grinder and cut the shaft off here, or cut the bolt off so it would fit. That's just showing that, you know, some of the mechanical details that of course, didn't work the way I expected them to. I lost my navigation arrows again. Why is that? Oh, it's because that's the last image. So let's back up to the beginning here. So then let me look here. So on the bottom, it turns out that the steering shaft comes down. I think this is the bottom. The steering wheel shaft comes down here. It's got that pinion gear on there. So it's this actually, you can barely see a couple of teeth there hiding in the shadows. And then this is the big gear here. So you can see here you can see the teeth on the big gear. And this is just simply welded to this big round shaft right here. This is a second 3/4 inch shaft, this basically vertical. And it's got this big gear welded to that. And then on that shaft, they've just got an arm welded onto it. So this arm right here, as you turn the steering wheel, this arm turns like this and pushes this control arm here, which then this is the other end of it here. So back under here, there's the rod right there through that hole. So here's the big arm is sticking out down here. As you turn the steering wheel, the arm moves back and forth like this. It pushes and pulls on this rod. And so on my front end, it's got this lever sticking out the side. So that turns this side of it based on the steering wheel. And then it's got a second arm coming out the bottom of the steering down here. So this rod connects the one on the left side to give you your Ackerman angle to make that work. So anyway, that's where that's at. And it seems to be working, other than my steering's looser than it should be, because over the years I didn't keep the center pivot greased, and I didn't keep my wheels greased. So everything's a little bit sloppy on the thing, but it does indeed work. And as I say, when I run the when I run the motor in reverse direction, I think it's the slight slot between this gear and the little gear here, so it clunks as you move back and forth. Now in reality, once I get the motor under control, so if I put a feedback pot on the motor, so the motor's not banging against the gear. So if I start turning the motor at a constant speed, well, it will take up that slack and work okay. But right now, it doesn't know that the gears are there. So as soon as I hit the push button, it starts putting out, say, 30% PWM, whatever the pot is set at. And if it's going from one direction to the other, it bangs back and forth as this thing turns to take up the slop on the steering. So I don't know if I'll ever do anything about that, other than hopefully when I get the motor under control, it's not going to do that anymore. And other than that, I guess that's here's another shot of the motor. This is the shaft coming out of this power steering motor right here, and here's that 1/4 bolt that bolts this onto the shaft. So up here I stuck in this is probably originally a bolt or a piece of threaded rod, and then I drilled and tapped into that bolt. So this gives me a 1/4 inch shaft coming off the end of my steering motor. So I can put a pot. I can either pull this bolt out and then drill and tap the side of a pot and stick it down in there directly, or I can put. I had a misalignment coupling on here, and I dropped it a couple of times, so I smashed it up enough that it's not going to work. So I just had to figure out some way to get a pot onto this motor, and then I can just basically turn the motor into a big RC servo by putting a little bit of software that drives that driver board and then drives the motor. So that hopefully will take care of that. And then I probably don't have any pictures here. Let me back up and see if I can find that one. So the bottom side of it has this shaft coming out. The shaft used to come down to about here. And one day I thought, well, it's too long. So I fired up my angle grinder, put power on the motor so the shaft was turning, and put my angle grinder, just cut right through it and cut the shaft off. I left about 1/2 inch of knurled shaft on there in case I ever need the knurled part of it. But it's got a hole in the bottom, so I could mount a pot down here also. So then I'd have a redundant sensor, one on the top here and one on the bottom down here. So if I get real ambitious, I could have both of those and constantly compare those. And if they're not matching within some percentage, say, oh, something broke or a wire fell off or something shorted out or whatever. So that's something you could add to it to take care of that. And I had some other pictures. I don't right now. So anyway, this is the vertical shaft from the steering wheel coming down here at an angle to about here, and then underneath is big gear. And then right about here is that other vertical shaft the one that we saw on the bottom that's got the big arm on it. So it just stuck up through a bearing, so I could see the top part of that shaft sticking up. And now that I'm looking at it, I realize, oh, I can't do what I was just thinking about doing because there's a gas tank on top of it. I was thinking I could just take the flat part of the shaft on the top, drill a hole down into it, and put a thread a 1/4 inch bolt into it, kind of like I did here. But now I just realized once I put the gas tank on, well, no, I can't do that because the gas tank is where the pot would have to be. This is what you learn after, you disassemble it, you do a bunch of work, and you go to put it back together and think, oh, it's not going to fit now because everything is in the way. So, but right now everything's bolted together except for that. And then on the bottom, I could do where'd it go? Okay, so on the bottom, since this arm moves back and forth, I could put either just drill a hole in here and get one of those little sensors with an arm on it. So I could measure that moving back and forth, or I could go out on the front, right on one of the control arms on the front and add, some other redundant sensor to verify that when I tell it to turn the steering wheel, that the actual wheels actually turn. Well, I guess here's a view of the front end right here while it's laying on the ground. So this is the left side. It just has the single arm coming across to the control arm. So I could put some kind of a sensor there. And here's the big cast axle in the front. So if I bolt a sensor onto here and just run an arm over there, I could actually measure it moving back and forth there. Or like you did, I think the top of it here, I think that shaft sticks out. So I could either drill it and put a sensor in there, or glue a magnet on like you did and put a magnetic sensor on there. So there's lots of different things I could do, but for the moment, I just want to get the motor. So if I tell the motor to turn to say 30 degrees, it does, and not worry about the rest of all this stuff under here and everything else that's involved. When I get that far, then I'll know if it's going to work or not. And something I find odd, this, as I say, this shaft right here goes up through the top and comes out right under the gas tank, so there's a bearing up there and a bearing like in the floor pan somewhere. And for some reason, it's like 4 to 6 inches longer than it needs to be. And see, it's shiny here because it was scraping on the dirt as I was driving around. So I don't know why they made that shaft so long, because I can't think
Yeah,
of
I
any.
was wondering about that, and it's welded too, so it's not, I mean, that's not turning, right?
Um,
I mean, it's moving back and forth as it has a,
well, this shaft does turn. This is, see, as this big gear here turns, it turns this shaft, and then this arm is welded onto it. So as you turn it, then the thing moves back and forth like this. But for some reason, it just sticks down way below, and I don't know why they did that. I can't think of any reason why you would need that sticking out down there, but
isn't
it
there a
does.
weld? I mean,
Right
is
there,
that a weld?
that right there's welded on.
So when you say it turns, it rotates.
Yeah, the shaft rotates. So as you turn the steering wheel, this shaft rotates around like this, and as it rotates in this welded arm, then the arm moves back and forth. But anyway, it's just odd that arm is sticking out so far, and I can't think of any reason for it. And you see it's sticking down far enough that, yeah, it's nice and shiny from picking up dragging through the dirt, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, normally you would have the mower deck would be here in the way. So this might just be, grass blowing around that did that. So anyway, I thought that was odd. So while I had it apart, that's something I noticed. So I think
So the
that's
mower
all.
deck is removed at the moment.
Yes, it is. And I don't think I have. Well, I don't have a good selection of pictures here, but yeah, see that normally the mower deck, there's a hole here. There you put a pin through there and a pin through there, and it hangs down from that, and then somehow must be in the back. There's some kind of adjustment that raises it up and down, but yeah, the mower deck's taken off right now. That's just one more thing in the way, so I've got it out of the way. When I go to put it back, and I'm gonna think, oh man, I put something in the way, so it's not gonna work now. But so far, I don't think I'm putting anything under here that will indeed be a problem. So when I go to do that, I'll find out. So I think that's all I have on those pictures. And as I say, if you go watch the YouTube videos. The other thing I did, I put my YouTube videos out on my channel instead of on the lawn tractor channel. And number one, I thought, well, they'll get more exposure that way. And when I go look at it, let's see, can I do this without making a total mess? Here, and then go here. So the bottom line is the videos I posted don't show up on the Lawn Tractor YouTube channel index. So for instance, here's the share screen. So if you can see that, wait a minute, what's this? What's this? Okay, so if you can see that, this is the the index channel for the lawn tractor stuff. You notice we only have 11 subscribers. We lost one. We had 12 subscribers for a while. And so normally those videos, if I had posted them to here, those videos would just show up here, but they don't now. And you notice one of the high videos from recently had 16 views on it. Now, if I go over to my channel, so I got 252 subscribers, and here's those last two videos I just put on. And in 4 days, actually, this is the same count I had yesterday. So in 3 days, the main one has 16 views, and it took the other one, a month to get 16 views on that. So what I did, I'm trying to tie these together. So in the description on this one, it says, oh, you can also go to the Lawn Tractor channel and look at that stuff. And then, various other places say you can refer back here to see these images. And now that I just put my mouse here, here's another odd thing. So I put my mouse here, you can see I'm getting a preview of that video.
It starts to play.
But I come over here, and this one won't do that. And this one won't do that. And this one won't do that. But this one will. Darn. And I don't know what's controlling that, but some of them work and some don't. So here's one down here. I think this one does. See, this one's got a preview. This one may not. This one does not have a preview, and I can't think of anything that controls that. And then here's one that's the playing with the motor as a servo, the steering motor as a servo. And what I also find odd, I just put random bits and pieces out here, and I've been doing that for a long time. And for some reason, people keep subscribing to my channel. And what's odd is down here, it's the steering videos where I show the mechanical steering stuff that I'm building. This one's got 12,000 views. This one's got 13,000 views. This one has 10,000 views. So people really like the talk about building mechanical steering. And then there's other ones, of course, that have, there's one 51 views, and here's some with 100, 150 views. But I find it odd that people found my stuff and they subscribed to it, and I put very little content out there. So I thought I'd start putting content on my page since I have enough subscribers. I'll put my stuff that I do. I'll put it out here on my page, and then just link it over to the lawn tractor stuff. So the main link is I posted in Slack saying, here's the videos I did, and there's a link to it. You can get to it directly from there. Or now we've got this meeting video saying this is what I did, so that maybe will give us a little more exposure. So on that same note, I wanted to find the original ROS Agriculture channel, because I wanted to figure out, I want to put a banner on the top. Let's say on, let's go back to the other one here. Put a banner image across here. And on this one, I finally went into the About tab here, and I put some stuff down saying, well, we created this group, and it says here's the links out to the index files that I created. But there's no way to see that either from the home or from the videos. There's nothing saying go click on the About tab. So I just wanted to put a banner up here that says, so what Matt did, he just had a nice picture of a field out somewhere. And I thought he had some other stuff in there. He's just got he got like a little link stuck on top of there that you click on that. I think it takes you to the ROS Discourse channel or something. So maybe I just need to pull up somebody's tutorial on YouTube and find out how do you do that, because I thought I could just put something right at the top here saying, well, this is the Lawn Tractor channel, blah, blah, blah. Here's all this other stuff, but it won't let me do that. So I have to put the text into About, and then I need some kind of a reference here on this page. It says, oh, by the way, go look at the About button, and that would tie it together better. So when I was looking for Matt's original page, I went to YouTube and typed in ROS Agriculture, and his does not show up at all anymore. I guess because he made all the videos unlisted, so it appears to be no content, or because nobody uses it or whatever. But I noticed that his does not show up. But I notice our stuff is showing up now when, if you search for ROS Agriculture, the videos from this page will show up on the on there. And then I thought, well, maybe if I put in robot agriculture, which is what he changed it from ROS Agriculture to robot agriculture when he was trying to get out of this stuff. And if you search for robot agriculture, still his stuff doesn't show up, but some of our videos do. And then I thought, well, what if you type in ROS Lawn Tractor? And that does get you, most of the stuff shows up, do come from our videos at that point. But again, you still have to know the combination to make that stuff pop up. So I was just trying to figure out some way, if people are searching, to get them closer to finding this stuff.
Interesting.
There's just more stuff on YouTube. I have no idea how the stuff works, and it's all a bit of a mystery how any of it works. So I just keep playing with it. And then I was noticing that again, I need to play with my lighting, because down in this corner here, down in this corner here, you can see the background is screwed up. Let's see if I play with my lights here. What's this do? Turn it up. That didn't help. Turn it down.
It changes it.
Let me readjust my video here. It changes it, but I purposely I put incandescent bulbs in as opposed to LED bulbs, because I saw a video somewhere saying, oh, well, it was somebody talking about doing professional photography and trying to use what kind of lighting. And they're pointing out the LED bulbs just have a big gaps in the light spectrum they put out. And you can get cool white and warm white and daylight and all these kind of things. And maybe it's just a matter of picking and choosing the right LED bulb to keep everything happy. I thought a long time ago when I was doing this all worked great, and it just seems to degrade on me, except that now I've got incandescent bulbs, and so that might be part of my problem. So that's just one more thing to think about one of these days.
One other thing I was just going to share. Let's see, screen 2. I forgot to mention, and I'll put this in the chat as well. I was wanting to make sure I understood how to use, structures, Arduino structures, and this C code. So I just had this very simple test where I had one structure that I used and another one that I duplicated. This was a third one for, say, the tractor data coming back, but I basically just loaded the structure into this buffer and then used the mem copy to take it out of the structure, put it into the buffer, clear the buffer out, and then do it again to simulate, like if I were transmitting it over the LoRa radios, and getting it out of the buffer and putting it back into the structure again. And so there's the reason why I duplicated it, is just to show how it could go, because I had not, sort of wrapped my head around using these structures along with these buffers, which is what actually gets transmitted in the LoRa command that I'm using, and then using that mem copy both on the sending and the receiving side. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that's also out in the GIST stuff. Just a simple piece of testing code.
So I see my computer's complaining again. It tells me I have low resources and suggests I close some applications. So it's not working real well here. Well, when I was searching last night, I ran across when I was doing the search for ROS Agriculture, I ran across that Goat Industries, which is I think they're in the UK. I just did a search and it didn't work. So let me try it. Let me try it again here. Okay, I think it's this one. So he was building. He says, "Here's my little robot that I'm building," and he used a one of those little 4-wheel like ATVs you buy for your kids. So it's got the electric motor on it.
I love those.
And he's talking about that. I was looking through his page, and he's got lots of good stuff posted on there.
And it's GOAT as in GOAT.
Yeah, I'll post it in a second here. Okay, here we go. So I got that one. Control copy. Where my chat window go? Here we go. So there's the link to it. And he's got quite a bit of stuff posted in there. This is the same guy. He was connected with, remember Jonathan from Wales? There's Jonathan and the other guy. This guy also lives in the same area, so they all know each other. And so that's the first time I ran into him. And back when we were doing ROS Agriculture, I know he had interviewed Matt, and he was on the list a couple of times, the guy from Goat Industries. Now I'm totally confused on what I was doing here. Let's see, I posted that. Am I sharing? No, I'm not, am I? Okay, that's good. That's good, I think. Well, here, let me go back. Maybe I do want to share. So let's see, go back here.
I'm looking at his video list. Long range machine control, GPS correction data, VR Laura. Yeah, our kind of guy.
Oh, nothing's working. Here we go. So if this is coming through, then here's their website, and they've got he's got a thing with 4 LoRa modules. He says 8 in total.
I see a
system. I'm not
Windows
sure why.
screen with a bunch of icons.
Is it the page that says Go to Industries on it? It's
Nope.
a YouTube screen?
Nope.
No. Okay. Well,
It's a desktop. I'm seeing a desktop.
Yeah, let's see. How did I stop sharing? I tried to share and it didn't seem to want to play. Screen 1, screen 2. So I think it's on screen 2 now. Now can you see a YouTube screen?
I do now.
Okay. Says participants can see my screen. Okay. This is his page, and here's the thing. It says he's got 4 LoRa modules, 8 in total. And here he's playing with GPS. And so he's got this one. If you come in here, it says the basic or the quad ROS robot. And he's got he's got one of those little ATV things here. So he's got first video, he says he bought it and he looks like it'll work, and he puts it up on block and runs the wheels back and forth. And then the second one, he's adding on a some kind of steering. I think he puts a linear actuator onto the steering. And then he's got another one here. The third one, I can't remember what that one was. But anyway, he's got, so this is a whole list of stuff associated with it. Here he for some reason he didn't like the motor that was on. He put a bigger motor on. And so basically he just hooked a lawnmower on behind with a piece of rope, and he drives it around. And the thing was, when he first was in the first video, he said, okay, look at it. It's got this electric motor, and on the back, it's got a sprocket on the axle. It's got a small sprocket on the motor. He says, boy, that's a lot of reduction. But then when he goes to run it, no, it looks like it'd go like 50 miles an hour when he, cranks up his remote control. And the thing is, he'd be better off, instead of putting a new motor on, if he would just put an extra level of gear reduction between his motor and his back axle. So put like an extra shaft with some, with second chain reduction on it. He probably would have been better off. But so anyway, he has some interesting stuff there if you want to dig through that stuff and see. So if I did this right.
And you think he knows Jonathan?
Yeah, I think those guys are connected somehow.
That's cool. And
this, I think, is the guy. He was also associated with that group. They were building their own tractor from scratch. It was like a bulldozer, had kind of a tracked vehicle. I think he was connected with that. I'm not real sure about that, but I think that might be the case. Well, if I back up here to his his index.
Well, why did he need 8 lower units?
I don't know. I just saw the lights flashing and said, noticed that's what it said he was doing. Let's see. So, okay, make sure I'm not sharing here, so I'm not wasting completely wasting everybody's time. No, I don't say that thing about the that tracked vehicle. If that might have been, he might have just been talking to these people when they're doing that. There was some other group that they'd started that they were trying to build their own tracked vehicle, and then they wanted to put ROS computers on it, and that's that. If you go back to ROS Agriculture, you can see the videos on that, or some of it was just interviews, like when this guy or whoever is building the tracked vehicle was interviewing Matt. So that's, if you go search for that, you might be able to pull it up that way. So anyway, that's just another reference. So we've got it posted, I think, in the chat now. So hopefully that'll make it to the meeting video.
Cool. You're not sharing anything, by the way.
Okay. So I think that's off the top of my head, that's all I got to say for this week.
You can stop recording.